Hello, hello, hello. I am not sure if this is working, but giving it a go. We will see if it actually is working. I've never done anything like this before, so I'm seeing if it's going to work. My name is Caleb. I go by Caleb the Spy on all my social media. And yeah, I am trying to tell if this is working or not. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try something. Yeah, I have no idea. My feeling is that sound is not coming through because I'm not getting it in my headphones. This is very successful so far. I feel like I've really nailed the experience. I'm gonna try and see what this is looking like. Okay, feels like I'm getting volume. Okay. The question is, can anyone hear me? That really is the question. Okay, I think it's working. All right, I'm gonna breeze through this, and then if it's total trash, that's fine. Uh, I don't think anybody's really watching all that much to begin with, so that's okay. Um, yeah. So, give me 1 second here. Oh, okay. One of my children logged on, and they're watching, so good. All right, I gotta close the window here, so I'm not getting distracted. So, so sorry if you actually joined at 9:15 and it's 7 minutes later, and I finally figured this out. My name is Caleb. I go by Caleb the Spy on a lot of social media stuff. And I've been doing these recap videos. It's just kind of a fun thing. We'll see what this one looks like. Maybe I'll have to record it a second time if the live stream doesn't actually work or if it doesn't actually record. But just trying new stuff. So if you watch any of this or all of it, I just want to say thanks. I'm just trying some new things, trying to figure out some of this audio visual stuff, some podcast stuff. Again, my name is Caleb. I go by Caleb the Spy on the social media stuff. You can see it down in the corner there. I post album anniversaries every day, anywhere from 2 to 15, depending on the day. And I like doing it almost so. I mean, I do it for myself. A lot of the reason is I love being able to. It's a good reminder to go listen to albums. I have a lot, and you don't always circle back to stuff. And so sometimes it's just a great reminder to go back and check out an album that you haven't checked out in a while. So I'm also going to talk about some new music every now and then. Um, so kind of all over the place, depending on the week. So yeah, I'm going to dive right in. I'll try and make this quick. I'm trying to be about 20 minutes. We'll see. Since it took me a little while to figure stuff out. So I'm going to start this week by talking about one new release that I checked out. I mentioned it last week that I wanted to check it out, and it's Blink 182's One More Time. I must say, it feels like this is the year of the pop punk revival. Looks like Green Day's coming out with a new album. Um, Neck Deep is coming out with an album. I think that'll be this year. Maybe it's early next year. We got album from Blink 182, the Menzingers. MXPX's new album is really, really good. Jeff Rosenstock, who isn't really pop punk necessarily, but has that kind of connection to it. So yeah, it was an album I was excited to check out to kind of see what they had done again. I know they haven't done anything in a while. So it's Blink 182's One More Time, came out a couple weeks ago. I actually uh I actually think this is good. And I'd go as far as say really good. My one complaint, and you're gonna hear this complaint from me a lot for just kind of the way I take in music. It's too long. I think if they do the first 12 tracks and maybe put the actual title track one more time as the last track. It's a great little emotional track to kind of come through at the end. This album, if it's 12 songs, I think it is borderline perfect for the genre it is. I think it's still got some issues, but I think if they ended after Blink Wave or they switch around some of those tracks, but those first 12 tracks are really, really good. The last five, a bit of a slog. I'm kind of by the last five, I'm kind of let's get going. Um, but yeah, those first 12 songs I think are absolutely great. Great pop punk album. It was fun to listen to. I'll probably listen to it a couple more times. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I that the emotions get flowing on one more time, but so that was fun. All right, let's dive into some of the album anniversaries from this week. First one is Streetcore. This was the last album from Joe Strummer before he actually passed away before this album came out and then was finished by the group he was working with, the Mescalanos. Again, I said this last week. I'm gonna have a hard time saying some of these things because I don't know how often I've said them out loud because I mostly just talk about them online. This is number 55 on my all-time favorite albums list. Again, came out in 2003, so this was celebrating the 20-year anniversary of it. I actually got it on vinyl because they released it again, so you might not be able to see it. There's my vinyl of it. I listened to it this week. I think I listened to it twice. It was great. I was really excited to do that. Just some great tracks on here. Um, Coma Girl, the first track, Get Down Moses are really good starters. Redemption Songs is a cover of the Bob Marley song. Great little cover. And then the final track, Silver and Gold, is a great track. It makes me feel emotional. It's hard to not tie this album in with his passing. But yeah, great song, Silver and Gold. I love that track. One of my absolute favorites. So yeah, Streetcore by Joe Strummer and his band. All right, next one, 1997's album from Plank Eye, The One and Only. This is number 58 on my all-time favorite list. And it's funny that those came out, I think, on the same day, number 55 and number 58. But this one came out in 1997. This was an album I think feels a little divisive. I'm not gonna lie. Not everyone loved their switch to their more pop sound. It's not as chunky, not as gritty as those first three releases. This was their fourth album technically, although The Spill is a little forgettable in my opinion. But yeah, this I think this is a great album. I like the pop twist. In fact, I would I think this is one of my obviously Weezer's Blue album had come out by then, but this was a good introduction to that idea of power pop, which again Weezer's totally was doing. But I really love good power pop song, good power pop album. I like the Beths. I like the New Pornographers, kind of bands like that. That power pop sound is really cool. Where it's got just a bit of a punk influence, but I feel like this was a early exposure to that for me. And I know it plot twist may have caused their breakup or Scott to leave the band, but whatever that is, I totally dig this album. Number 58 on my all-time list. So that's another one. All right, now we'll jump all the way to 2019. Again, ska is probably my favorite music, ska and punk stuff. I like a lot of variety, but I am gonna talk about a lot of the ska albums. Sorry. So this is by the Bruce Lee Band. It's called Rental Eviction. It's just a real brief album. It's only got 7 songs on it, 16 minutes. A lot of their newer stuff is kind of like that. They did do a full length last year, I think. The but they do kind of these shorter albums, and that's because Mike Park is the lead here. He's running Asian Man Records. Jeff Rosenstock actually helps out with this band now, and I think that was a huge thing when he started helping out. All of their releases since he started helping out have been great. And then Dan P also is a part of the band. So guys who have a lot of things going on. So you're not going to get a lot of full length albums, but they just kind of put out a number of EPs. This is another one. I was really excited to get on vinyl from Asian Man Records. This is just one side, and then on the other side, it actually has their another one of their EPs is the community support group EP that they did. So that was another one I was really excited to get on vinyl. Yeah, 7 songs, 16 minutes. All of them are solid, especially the first three, and then the last song, "Still Down for Tomorrow," total jam, totally worth checking out. Really, really great stuff from the Bruce Lee band. I'm pretty much all in on the Bruce Lee band, so it's probably hard for me to talk fairly honestly about them. I really love the music they do. So yeah, that was one that came out in 2019. All right, two albums from the band Incubus this week came out. One was Morning View, which came out in 2001. And then Make Yourself came out, and I want to say 1999. I apologize, I did not write it down before the show started. So or before I started recording. So Incubus is Make Yourself and Morning View. Morning View, my last time I did this top 150 albums list, Morning View was number 130. So I was really excited to listen to it. And I was a little disappointed actually. I it didn't grab me the way I remember it grabbing me in the past. Maybe it was the mood I was in. So I'm not going to move it down automatically. On the flip side, I really, really was digging Make Yourself, and I thought, oh, maybe I should have these flipped on my list. But it's always funny to me when bands have albums that they release two different albums and they're in the same day in different years. It's not these ones are about a week apart, but like tomorrow, in the anniversary list on the 28th, King's Kaleidoscope has Becoming Who We Are or Becoming Who We Are was released in 2014 on the 28th, on October 28th, and Baptism Imagination, their 2021, no, 2022 release was also on October 28th. That stuff always makes me laugh. But yeah, so I I feel like my opinions on these albums may have shifted a little, um, even since I did that list. But I need to give Morning View another listen. I remember loving this album. I lived in China for a couple years. It came out right as I was moving to China, and I remember really digging this album. Maybe it was I got it before my second year, but listened into it a lot when I was in China. So yeah, Incubus's Morning View and Make Yourself. Interesting read on those this week for me. All right, here's my big hot take controversial one. The Jars of Clay self-titled album. All right, this is an album that I know people absolutely love this album. It came out in 1995 and it was a staple of 90s Christian culture and especially music culture. So this is an album that still to this day, and I'm going to read some of the things that people replied to me on Twitter with because just lots of people really really love this album. So I've listened to it more kind of because I had fallen Jars of Clay in general is not really my thing, and so they had fallen off my radar pretty good until this last year when I kind of met some people on Twitter who really loved this band still, and it was kind of a kind of eye opening to me. I just didn't know anybody personally who was still really into Jars of Clay, so it was really interesting to kind of have those connections and then try and revisit the album and really see what I thought about it. And 'cause we had dismissed it off. I've told this story a couple times, but in high school we had a joke that if there were Christians together, we said, we're Christians, we're here. Can we put flood on? It's probably a requirement. That was kind of our joke is that if Christians are together, flood should play. And so it was not really something that was in my zeitgeist. It was more into the alternative stuff and more the punk stuff and just never really hit me. So I've listened to this album in the last 6 months, probably more than I've ever listened to it in my entire life. And I'm glad people love it, but it still just does not hit me the way it hits other people. I don't love this album. And there's a phrase that people will use, the church jams now, guys who use the phrase, I think Kylan mostly, but uses the phrase ska fatigue whenever we talk about ska music, and he just gets ska fatigue, and I totally get it. I think that genre fatigue is not just a ska thing, it's a punk thing, it's a metal thing, it's a alternative rock thing. I think if the genre of music isn't your thing, it's probably not hard to get that fatigue. And that's kind of how I feel about this album. I feel like I don't think there's a lot of live drumming on it, so a lot of the songs just don't jump out to me. They feel like they kind of blend one into the other. I know one of the times I listened to it this year, I was taking a walk, and I didn't know what song I was on. I was like, is this song three or song four, or am I still on the second song? And I looked down, and it was like song four, and they just kind of all mushed together, which probably is an appeal for a lot of people. But to me, it just there's not enough dynamic nature on it. So that's my take on it. That's my opinion. I'm really glad that people love this album still. In fact, let's read a couple. I'm gonna read a couple things that people said. Next time I would do this, I'll try and get pictures. But that's was more advanced than I was really to do. So I'm just gonna read a couple because I think it's fun. I do get a fair amount of responses to these, and it's always fun to hear what other people have to say. So Jonathan Tilley said that he still loves it. It's their best, and Like a Child was his favorite. He called it. I thought this was funny. He called it a youth group jam. Angela Hunt she mentioned that it was her favorite album of all time, and she loves every song. So clearly, the fatigue I feel for it does not hit her. Bill Powell talked about this being kind of what it got him into CCM, and that's great. I think that idea of I think a friend had given it to him, and it was kind of his gateway into CCM in general. So that's pretty awesome. Somebody named Jordan S. responded that her favorite song was Worlds Apart. And she told the story of when she was pregnant with her first child, she had decorated the nursery with a bunch of lyric prints. And the one of the Worlds Apart was one of the songs that she used to decorate her nursery for her child. I thought that was really cool too. And then a lot of people know, uh, and I'm gonna say his name. I'm not even try to say last name because I'll probably mess it up. But Josh, who writes a lot about CCM music, on Twitter. He's got a great blog. If you like the album anniversaries that I do, you should. I've taken a lot from his blog. His favorite albums list is a great resource, and his greatest CCM list of like 100 albums is really great. If you just Google greatest CCM albums, I think he's the first thing that comes up. Great way to find his blog. Totally worth checking out. It's still his favorite album. It's number one. I rechecked today to make sure it was still his favorite album on his favorite albums list. But I've used his blog a lot to set up my calendar and some of the albums that I talk about. So that's my opinion. There's some other people's opinions. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. It's just not an album that I've ever really connected with, and I've really tried this year, and it just is one of those albums. So yeah, enough about that. But some great responses to my post on Twitter about that. A lot of people really love that song "Worlds Apart" and just love that whole album. All right, let's move on. "Road to Nowhere" by Tommy Guerrero. This is an instrumental album. Came out in 2018. I love Tommy Guerrero. I love his instrumental work. Great. If you're working on something, need to be heads down. Absolutely great to have on. Go check out um, Tommy Guerrero's music. 2018 came out 5 years ago. He just put out a new album, I think in September, end of September. It's very good as well. I've listened to that more than once since it came out. All right, 1983, so celebrating 40 years. Came out today that I'm recording this. I'm live, so obviously on the 27th. Infidels by Bob Dylan. Again, I was raised in a Bob Dylan house. I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about a lot of Bob Dylan albums probably because they mean a lot to me, even still as an adult. And this was the first album after his Christian trilogy, and it's excuse me, really solid album. It's 8 songs. The first 5 of the first 6 are just absolutely killer. Fourth single was I and I. So it's 8 songs on the album, and 4 of them ended up being singles. And I and I was the four singles, and that's probably my least favorite album or least favorite song on the album. So Infidels, very unique. It's unique in his catalog. It's unique in the timing it came out, but really, really super rock album, kind of that classic rock sound. Again, raised on Bob Dylan, so I'm definitely all in on Mr. Dylan. All right, let's go to another one here. All right, next one is this is the cover for on screen is the cover for Super Black Market Clash, which came out in 1993, so that was 30 years ago. 30 years ago. But the original EP was so the Clash in 1980 put out Black Market Clash, which was a very unique collection of songs. It was just an EP, and then in 1983, it got repackaged with some additional songs. They put another EP on it. I think the one that, yeah, they put two EPs together and repackaged it. So it was everything from Black Market Clash plus another EP, which the name is escaping me right now. Uh, but they put those two together and they put it out as Super Black Market Clash. I think it's that's the one that's most accessible. It's the one I have. I do not have the Black Market Clash. I do know somebody who I think just got it on vinyl. That was pretty amazing. That's definitely a chase. That'd be one I'd love to find. I love the Clash. They are my second favorite band, and this is just a very earlier in their career. I mean, this is 1980, but this, so, London Calling's out by this point, but this is just a great view in how unique they were and kind of they were not just a punk band and just another example of why they were the only band that matters. And yeah, so I love the Clash, and this was a fun release that they had and they really released it twice. All right, next is Scalleluja 2 by the Insiders. Again, if you find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, I've claimed the name the caretaker of Christian ska. I see it as a role of watching over a graveyard of dead bands that had a very short lifespan. But the Insiders came out with two Scalleluja albums, which were just worship albums done in kind of their ska punk hardcore style. This one came out in 1999, and the first one had come out a couple years earlier. They released one album, then they did their Scalleluja, did another album, and then did this one. And I like this album. I want to be really clear. It's enjoyable. I listened to it this week, and When I Look Up is a great song. In the Secret is great. Both of those songs are just killer tracks. Shout to the Lord, their version of that is really good. It's slower. It's very unique for them, but it's still very good. I like the first Scalleluja album more. I think it's just a little more fun. This one is somebody made the comment that it feels like it's going for a little bit more of a radio appeal. So I like the first one better, but this one's still really good. And really it kind of enjoyable listen if you like the ska punk stuff. And so yeah, that was came out in 1999. So that was a fun re-listen for the week. All right, couple more, and I swear I'm almost done. Again, another one more Christian ska one. I want to mention this one because of the not including their Kickstarter comeback album, the OC Supertones. This is Hi-Fi Revival. This came out in 2002. It's probably my least favorite of their first set of albums. They're the one they did on after the Kickstarter in I want to say 2010, but that doesn't sound right. Uh, that's my least favorite by them. I just didn't connect with it as much. This one of their original ones, my probably my least favorite. It um for me, a lot of it just kind of melds together. It's kind of that Jars of Clay thing that I was talking about, where just one song kind of blurs into another. There's still some really good songs on here. The lead single or the first album Superfly or the first song off the album Superfly, really good. Radio Plays is another good one. There's on a re-listen. I really enjoyed listening to it. I had probably not listened to it in a while, and I was one of the reasons I love kind of throwing out these album anniversaries is a number of people responded about how much they liked it. Again, it's an album that I probably have downplayed a little, so it was really fun to hear a couple people who really had a ton of high praise for it, not just are kind of like me who had just liked it. So the Sadie Hawkins Pod, their Twitter account, called it their most compelling musically compelling album, which I thought that was really interesting. Another person mentioned how it infused a little soul, which I thought was cool. Berkeley, apologize if I say your name wrong. He loves the energy on it, and he loves how they kind of tried some new things. They took some big swings on this album and tried some different things. Cyber Might Zero likes it. He liked it more than Loud and Clear. What I thought that was interesting is Loud and Clear is my favorite Supertones album, so he liked this one more. Thought that was pretty interesting. And then a couple other folks, a number of people, I'd already mentioned it, talked about Radio Plays being a favorite song of theirs. But yeah, it's always exciting to put out a post and then hear an album that you're maybe not super high on, and then kind of hear and learn why people like it so much. So yeah, those were a couple. The only other one that I wanted to highlight, celebrating a 30-year anniversary was, I'm gonna mess this up, A Liturgy, A Legacy, and a Ragamuffin Band by Rich Mullins. I don't have a picture for it. That was probably the not the surprise of the week, but I really did enjoy listening to that. I also realized I use YouTube Music, and I do it because I like to buy the music and then upload it, and it's still mine. I really started using Google Play Music before it was YouTube Music because I wanted to go listen to. I had switched to Spotify. I was kind of on that trajectory, and I wanted to listen to Black Eyed Siva, and I realized I couldn't stream Black Eyed Siva. So I had to try and figure out a way where I could stream Black Eyed Siva, and I found out, oh, I can upload all of my music. So for a while, I kind of went back and forth, and I used Spotify a little, and I started uploading stuff, and I kind of fully switched. So I mostly listen to YouTube Music and my music. The one thing about that is that you at times you have to enter it in there. So it's a ripped copy of a CD, and you have to if you can't get the music, you might have to type in. So for a lot of albums, I'll rip if I have them on CD, I'll rip the CD and then I have to type it in there. I am not good at spelling and occasionally do typos. So the funny thing is, I noticed today that in my YouTube music, this album is listed as a liturgy, a legacy, and a bagamuffin band because I hit the B button instead of the R button, or I clicked the B key instead of the R. And I must have read it wrong when I was typing it in. Maybe I was tired, but I'll never look at that album the same way. The Bagamuffin Band or that group. So anyway, that's the week in music that I wanted to go through. Thanks for joining any of this. If you stuck with any of the live stream, I don't have the stats up, so I don't know if anybody's actually watching or participating. But if you did, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. And if this isn't didn't work at all and I just wasted a bunch of my time, great. That's fun too. All right. Thanks so much. And I'll see you next week. Again, follow me, Caleb the Spy on X, formerly Twitter, and Caleb the Spy on Instagram. Great. Thanks, everybody.